Hi, this is Lee, and I'm back with another episode of Lee's Comic Art channel. So today we're going to focus on coloring comics, different methods that are used, older methods, newer methods. I'm going to try to explain it. I might not necessarily go over every type of coloring here. I only have certain samples to show, but the samples I do have to show are color guides, color key, some original color art, and some other methods of coloring comics that were used in the 80s, okay? And I'll try to explain the process to you as best I can, okay? So and this will help you differentiate between some things that you see for sale at times, okay? So the first thing I'm going to go over is a color guide, okay? And this is the color guide to The Adventures of Superman, number 477. The color guide is marked up by Glenn Whitmore, okay? So as you can see, this is what the printer is going to use for their color breakdowns of the different areas. And, you know, this is kind of explains the whole reason why there's outlines in comics. I remember just seeing somebody recently, is like in real life, there's not black outlines around everybody, but there's black outlines around comic book art because it needs to hold the color. And so what Glenn is doing here, he's calling out process colors of sometimes yellow, red, blue, which is actually yellow, cyan, and magenta in true colors. And sometimes they even have specific callouts, I think, for maybe general colors that they use throughout. Because when I see them, I see, Y2, red 2, so yellow 2, magenta 2%. These are tints, essentially. And the tints are cut in the pre-press process. So before the metal plates are made for printing, or at least back then when this was done with metal plates, they would actually cut what they call rubylith, and they would cut like a shape for his boot, and then they would go in and they would this looks like it just says YR, so it's probably 100% yellow, 100% magenta, and that's how you get a nice bright red. So yeah, the pre-press guys of which I used to do. I didn't used to do it for comic books, but I used to do pre-press. And we would just use this material called rubylith, where we could essentially, it's sort of like a color form, but you can cut it away and peel it off, okay? And then you have the clear area where they put the tints underneath it, and that's what creates the colors, okay? So that's what a color guide is. It's essentially it's a copy, a photocopy of the original art reduced to the final size of the comic book, and then they're placing call outs for the different areas for the coloring of the entire book. I mean, these are done for entire books. Okay, so I also have the color key for that same issue, Adventures of Superman number 477. So, and in the color key, this is after the artwork has been shot. Again, also, being shot mean they made a line. They made a line work shot of the artwork, and I'm not sure why this one's got two of these on here. I think maybe for the call outs on this one, because they're calling out should be R15. So I think this is just an extra for call outs. So it's a marked up sheet. And then this is the black, which is essentially the line work. This is shot directly from the original art. And then those tints I was telling you about, you can see these are flat tints. Here we've got, we've got the cyan here, and it's got like little register marks in the corner here, and that's how you line up the colors to get everything to register properly, meaning to line up. You got the magenta, and then you got the yellow. Okay, so this is for the proofing process. They don't make this for every page. They would only make this for the covers because these sometimes they call them, sometimes they have match prints, which are kind of similar, but this is a color key because it's separate colors. Match print is all colors on one piece. But they only do this for the cover, because the cover colors are important, right? The cover is what sells the comic book. So they want to make sure that the color proof that they've made, meaning this color key, matches the final product. So the pressman is going to use this to compare his final printing to, because you get dot gain and everything on a press, and the colors can really come out screwed up, you know. So they use this as a guide. Okay, so that's like the traditional way of doing comic coloring. They use that from the, from the what's that, the 30s, 40s, all the way on up until into the 90s. Okay, so but then with the computer taking hold and Photoshop, people started doing coloring a different way. Okay, this is like from an independent comic. This is by Mark Hempel and Mark Wheatley. Okay, so this is the original comic art page. Really nice lines on this. It's from I'm trying to remember. Blood of the Innocent. It's called. It was an independent comic around like '86 or so. And then the way this was colored wasn't colored. It wasn't colored the same way as what I showed you before with the callouts and everything. What they did was, you'll see this here. This might be confusing to people because this isn't done too often. They made a reduced line art transparency of the original artwork. Okay, and then what they did was, they probably did this on a light table like this way, like underneath there, so that they could put this paper over top of it and using watercolors, I believe it is, to actually fill in the colors so that you'd have the final product. Now, this might look similar to a lot of things you see on eBay, where they're selling them as production acetate, but they didn't do production acetates like that, especially for single pages, and they didn't really. And the color keys look different because the color keys don't have just the line work on there. So don't be fooled by those production acetates. That's a bunch of baloney. But this is just kind of neat how they did this, because then what they would do is they would take this and they would shoot not a halftone, because the halftone's one color, but they would do a 4-color process print of this, where they have to line up 3 different negatives and stuff for each color, and then they would match it up with the original line negative that made this black and white. I call it a positive, but it's an acetate too. It's acetate or a positive, okay? But the original that made this is still around. And that's why you can use this as a guide, on a light table, and then just paint over it, and then you'll have it line up with your original line art, okay? So that's a totally different way of doing color. This was still done in like the traditional manner. Let me just pull this out of here. This is Norm Brayfogle from Birth of the Demon, but this is kind of different because, unlike, the original comic art pages with the line work and all this is all fully painted on one page. And it does have text on this. I think I might not have it, mainly because I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. And you can identify that there was something laying on top of this because it has these register marks on there. Register marks also help it when they lay down the colors for the printing process too, though, because like I said, they shoot 4 negatives of this. They'll shoot a cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and then they'll line them up using the register marks. Okay, but I also know that there's text on here. I mean, this could actually, you don't really need text on this page, and as a matter of fact, most of these panels don't have any blurbs or text on them. But I found out, because I do have the book, that it does have, it has a word balloon here, and it's got a text box there and stuff. So, but I'll tell you, the color is pretty true to the original. I'm very impressed with actually some of the highlight colors, some of this orange that's up there in the sand. Not all of it showed up, but part of that's because of the size, because it gets reduced to like at least 50% or less. Okay, but the fact that the color is pretty true is pretty impressive. That means, you know, I'm not sure what they used for proofs of press here. If they had the original art available, I find that hard to believe, but you know, it's possible. But it's a really good match to find. So that's all I have to show for now, and I hope that answers some people's questions about, you know, the process and the different components of color for comics. And maybe it opens up a whole new Pandora's box for you as far as more questions. If you have some, you know, feel free to just post them in my comment section, and I'll try to answer them best I can. Okay? Take care.